A year in the life of David Bowie. 1970. The 1970 was a defining year for David Bowie, a time when he began to transition from an emerging artist to a future icon. Bowie was pushing the boundaries of music and style, experimenting with new sounds and personas. This is the story of how David Bowie's life and career evolved throughout 1970. January 1970. A new year, new beginnings. David Bowie entered 1970 at a crucial point in his career. After years of experimentation and honing his craft, he was beginning to find his unique voice. At this stage, Bowie was working on new material, eager to push past the folk influences of his early work and embrace a more theatrical and dynamic sound. February 1970, recording The Man Who Sold the World. In February, Bowie entered the studio to record what would become his third album, The Man Who Sold the World. This album marked a significant departure from his earlier work, both in sound and subject matter. Bowie was shifting toward heavier rock, drawing inspiration from bands like Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath, and exploring darker, more complex themes in his lyrics. Bowie worked with guitarist Mick Ronson and producer Tony Visconti to craft a more powerful sound. Tracks like The Width of a Circle and The Man Who Sold the World revealed Bowie's fascination with identity, madness, and existential themes that would become hallmarks of his later work. April 1970. Marriage to Angie Barnett. April brought a major change in Bowie's personal life when he married Angie Barnett on March 19, 1970. Angie would play a significant role in Bowie's life and career during the 1970s, supporting his vision and helping to shape his persona. Together they formed a creative and unconventional partnership that would fuel Bowie's rise to stardom. May-June 1970. The release of The Prettiest Star. While working on The Man Who Sold the World, Bowie released the single The Prettiest Star in March. The song was a romantic ode to Angie, and its glam sound hinted at the direction Bowie's music was heading. Although the single didn't chart well, it was an important milestone, showcasing his evolving style. July 1970. Developing the Ziggy Stardust concept. By the summer of 1970, Bowie was already thinking ahead. Although Ziggy Stardust wouldn't fully emerge until 1972, the seeds of Bowie's most iconic character were already being planted. Bowie's fascination with alienation, fame, and the idea of rock stars as mythical figures was starting to take shape. These ideas would soon become central to his transformation. September 1970. Bowie's iconic album cover shoot. In September, Bowie prepared for the release of The Man Who Sold the World by participating in a photo shoot that would become iconic. On the cover of the UK release, Bowie is pictured wearing a flowing dress, boldly defying gender norms and challenging conventional ideas of masculinity. This was one of the first signs that Bowie was not just a musician, but a cultural provocateur who would blur the lines of identity. November 1970. Release of The Man Who Sold the World. November marked the release of The Man Who Sold the World. The album was unlike anything Bowie had released before, heavier, darker, and more complex. Critics were divided, with some praising its innovation and others unsure of what to make of Bowie's new direction. However, the album would go on to become one of his most influential works, particularly with the title track becoming a cult classic. The Man Who Sold the World was an exploration of identity, alienation, and mental illness, themes that Bowie would continue to develop throughout his career. Although it didn't receive the commercial success Bowie hoped for, the album laid the groundwork for the artistic breakthroughs that would come in the following years. December 1970. Looking ahead. As 1970 came to a close, Bowie was already looking to the future. With The Man Who Sold the World behind him, Bowie was ready to push even further, both musically and visually. The theatricality and boldness that would define his next few years were already emerging as he prepared to take the next step in his transformation into one of rock's most groundbreaking artists. 1970 was the year David Bowie began to truly evolve into the icon we know today. It was the beginning of a journey that would soon revolutionize music, fashion, and culture. Subscribe to Rock Masterpieces for more deep dives into the lives of music legends.